Good morning and welcome back to the shop. It's a bit of a sad day here because the forging press is down. What you're looking at is what's called galling. It's basically where metal on metal has rubbed or contacted more than it should. And what we have going on here is an issue of ill-fitting parts. When I built the forging press, I didn't have access to a milling machine. In hindsight, maybe I should have spent the extra money and had somebody do it for me. This is the carriage to the forging press that I have pulled out. There is some corresponding spots on the carriage where it's been galling, and that's not good. But you can also see that there is no signs of any significant contact over the rest of most of the surface area. Recently, I've begun to notice while forging and placing the press under load that the carriage tends to wedge very slightly and stick, and then on the return stroke it has to pop loose, and that's not good. Unfortunately, the problem extends to the main carriage piece. As you can see here, there's very little signs of contact. The problem is that it's much easier to remove material than it is to add material after the fact. If I don't do something to address this now, it's only going to get worse. I wish I would have addressed it sooner, but better late than never. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld beads on the surface areas that need to be widened or made more thick. And then with some careful grinding application, my plan, my hope, is to get it down to the thickness it needs to be. Sounds pretty difficult, but I think it's doable. According to my guesstimation, I need to make these welding beads 10 thousandths above this plate on both sides.
Not there yet.
And to think of all the fun I'd be missing out on if I had just bought a press. Okay, I have one end of the middle sliding plate ground off. Let's try fitting it and see just how bad it is. Okay, so I thought the slop was about 20 thousandths total. It's a little more than that. So I just ground off way too much. Back to the welding table. So here's the dilemma. I can't just slide this plate in from either side because there's a little pad right here that the cylinder ram connects to, and it's wider than the rest of the plate, and therefore the gap between the uprights. So I have to fit in here cattywampus and then twist it or turn it, and that's a little bit of a challenge. I think I have enough clearance to tap it in gently. It's going swimmingly. Okay, I have the center plate in, reconnected to the cylinder ram. Everything seems to be going pretty well. I have to remember that this is not a well-oiled machine type tolerance here. This is a forging press. So now that we have the center plate at least in the press and fitting mostly, it's time to turn our attention to the rest of the carriage. So I have the ways or contact points on the carriage built up, and now I'm just going through the laborious process of grinding them down a little bit by little bit and checking to see whether or not it fits in the press frame. Not quite big enough. Okay, so I've checked it probably 658 times so far and back and forth through the grinder, but I just thought of something. I'm working this carriage piece and it's pretty hot, which is why I'm wearing those welding gloves, but the rest of this frame is about 30 degrees. I'm not sure the exact amount of expansion for the steel, but I know there is some. So before I accidentally make the carriage too small again, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the quench tank and cool it off down to around the temperature that the rest of the frame is and see how much that gives us. Looks like some kind of Star Wars crash or something. So it's been kind of interesting. I've been having to use the hydraulic power and some pins and stuff to get this situated back together and the holes lining up. I've discovered that one of the issues I have here is that these ways are not perfectly parallel all the way down, and I think that was largely due to the fact that I did more welding up in this area than I really should have, and it ended up pulling these pieces of angle iron around a little bit when it cooled and contracted. Thanks for coming along on this little adventure today, trying to fix the old, actually the rather new forging press. This thing is an invaluable piece of equipment in the shop here. It's what allows me to actually make Damascus steel, for example, in a space of time less than like 60 years. I think there's probably a little more wearing in for it to do. You hear that? Nothing. Thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the notifications button as well. Thanks for watching and have a great day.